We're now joined by Elton Romeo Hart. He's an attorney at the UJ Law Clinic. Elton, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. Of course, we've seen the first instigator here being convicted for the July unrest in 2021. Was this something that you expected, him being found on 2 counts of incitement?
No, indeed, Mbali. I expected him to be found guilty because he already admitted that he shot the video. It was his voice. So he admitted basically all the elements of the crime of incitement of violence or to commit some sort of a public violence act. So for him, it was just literally now to come and say, I'm sorry for my actions and try and mitigate in what type of sentence he's going to get. But the elements of the crime was there. So for me, this was an open and shut case the moment he admitted in open court that it was him that actually made the video and it was his voice, because the state only had to call 3 witnesses to prove this crime, compared to in other instances it would be a little bit difficult. But this one was an open and shut case for me.
What sort of sentence can we expect here when that gets handed down later this year, particularly looking at the sort of destruction that came out of the July 2021 unrest?
No, it can be anything from 5 to 10 years, depending on the circumstances that he will advance to court as to he's maybe you would say, he can't really say he's a first-time offender because I know he was convicted of theft some years ago. I think it was 2007 or 2009. So, but he can say he was gainfully employed, he was the breadwinner, he can maybe, but in between 5 to 10 years he can get. And already I think the judge will take into consideration that he's been in custody for 2 years already because he was denied bail already. So that is already some sort of a form of sentence that he served, because bail, the only thing for bail is not to punish you, but to just make sure you stay in trial. And yeah, he's been sitting in custody awaiting the finalization of his trial for 2 years. So I think the court will take that 2 years into account when actually giving him the sentence. But I don't think it's going to be more than 10 years. It will be in between that 5 to 10 years limit there.
And Elton, do you think that this is a fair verdict? And I know that you said that he admitted in court that he did indeed record that video, but one would say till this day, we still do not know who was behind the 2021 July unrest.
No, this is just one of the cases. I think the NPA is currently busy trying to actually now prosecute a lot more people. Obviously, it will not be as easy as the Zuma case for this guy. Because, yeah, he admitted that he made the video. It was type of a prank because of the tiff that he had with his employer and those type of things. But the other ones, I think where the one guy is a DJ where they can't even prove that it's his voice in the video. So there you would now have trials within a trial where they need to now look at the admissibility of that evidence to see its original authenticity, proving authenticity. So it becomes now a whole law of evidence ballgame that will play down in those other trials. But they can follow the same route. If you have admissions where people admit that they made the videos, and obviously that a reasonable person then acted upon that video and committed a crime such as what happened in July 2021, they can be convicted. But I don't think the ones coming, people tend to say that this is a precedent setting. This one was just it was like a low-hanging fruit for the state. The other ones, I think, is going to be much more difficult for them to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these people actually did commit these offenses by inciting public violence. They need to prove the identity, that the person that actually speaks in the video is this one. So they will need to call a lot more witnesses and experts to come and actually verify the evidence and how the evidence was retrieved, from where it was retrieved, that it's still the original as it was made by the alleged instigator if they charge them.
And Mr. Hart, what does this actually say when it comes to, these videos that people create? And we see these videos on social media doing the rounds and, people sharing them, especially when we see what unfolded during the 2021 July unrest. What does this mean in a broader sense for those who record themselves and trying to insult violence, but, also at the same time saying that it was just a prank, it was just a joke?
one needs to also check at the timing. When was that video recorded? Because Mbali, if you record me in maybe 2001, where I somehow said certain things, but now it's maybe 21 years later and you actually share a video and people start believing, then we need to look at not the person that actually made the video, but actually the one that actually shared the video. What was his intent sharing that video? Because at that time when I made the video, maybe I was just angry in 2001, but now it's 21 years later, you have different intents sharing that video to actually try and incite people. And at that stage, my intent was not to incite violence. So then it becomes also a he said, she said story, and then the state needs to prove. Then one needs to now go look at the metadata of that video. When was the video originally shot, and how it was now sent from one to the other, and who was actually the one that circulated it. But then it becomes now technical exercises that you need to do. But obviously these videos also there's Popia, did you have my consent to actually share a video? Maybe I shared a video with you privately, or I shared a video with my attorney, and then this video somehow got out because of the secretary. And Popia plays a role as to how we circulate these videos. And I think now the legislation is also in a bit a little bit more stricter on actually these people that shares these videos that can also now be prosecuted. And obviously one needs to be very careful as to what you capture on video and actually share it amongst friends that you think you can trust, because that video might just land in the wrong hands and then it incites some form of violence, and you can then be held accountable for that.
And lastly, what are your expectations when it comes to the hearings that will be done in the mitigation of sentence?
No, in the mitigation of sentence, obviously, like I said, it's like he needs to come and say, okay. And obviously now he's been in custody for 2 years now. He can still raise the argument or the fact to say that I was the primary breadwinner in my family. My family depended on me. And for the past 2 years that I was incarcerated, my family has suffered in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ways. I even lost maybe my place of residence, and my family, my wife and kids had to move somewhere else. I could not provide for them. And he can raise a whole host of things, and also saying that although I was found guilty in 2009 for a crime of theft, it's over a period of nearly 20 years, or whatever the time period may be, maybe 13, and say that I haven't committed any other crime, so you can look at, and then I'm not really a violent person. So all these types of things that you add up and you speak now to the character of a person. And what they can also do is maybe to get a probation officer's report, that the probation officer sits with him and say, is he a person that actually qualifies for correctional supervision, which means that he won't be further kept in custody, but maybe would be placed under house arrest, where he can still look for a new job and actually look after his family, so that you try and rehabilitate him, because our prison or our correction system is such a way that you need to correct the behavior, not to just out and out punish a person.